Well, good afternoon to everyone joining us now. We're letting folks stream into the room. My name is Joe Swimmer. I am the Executive Director of the Episcopal Parish Network. I'm thrilled to have you with us today and to have this beautiful picture of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine in New York up on the screen, along with our panelists. We are really grateful to them for joining us to talk about a new community that is being formed at the cathedral and how intentional communities can be used to bridge divides in our culture and society today. I would ask that those of you who are joining us, please take a minute to enter into the chat where it is that you are joining us from. So you can just put your name and the parish and city and state that you're joining us from. That would be great. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Monica, and thank you all again to our panelists and to our participants. Look forward to hearing what they have to share today.
Thank you, Joe. And again, I want to echo Joe's thanks for your taking time to join us today and learn more about this wonderful program that we are launching at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. It's called The Community at the Crossing. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of context about the structure of how we're going to proceed today. And then I'm going to turn it over to our wonderful panelists. So Father Pat Malloy he is the Dean of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. He's going to share a bit of background about the context in which we are launching this program in our society today, with its deep divisions and a lack of rootedness in faith communities, and why we believe this is a strong and needful response to the current state of our society. And then we're going to have Sister Hannah Spears, who is a member of the Chemin Neuf team. And Chemin Neuf is a community of the Roman Catholic Church whose charism is ecumenical community. And they are going to help us to facilitate this new intentional community at the cathedral. So she will provide some information about what the day-to-day of this program will be, how we will select people to participate in the community, and what their life will look like here in New York City as they participate as a resident of the community. Then we will also have with us Pierre Ludovic Claude, who was a participant of a similar program that our program is modeled after. That would be the community of St. Anselm at Lambeth Palace. So he had a firsthand experience with this kind of residential community, and he'll talk about the impact on his life. And then we also have with us Jean-Sébastien Laurent, who is a member of the Chemin Neuf community as well, and he's the program coordinator on the Chemin Neuf side. He will be available to answer any questions that you might have. What you see in front of you is a picture of our cathedral, and what I wanted to share with you before we get started is just the name of this community is the Community at the Crossing. And if you can see in this picture the little zipper-like design halfway through, that's what we refer to as the crossing. There's a space there that's in the cruciform shape that really is the crossing, so that you can move from one side of the cathedral to the other. And we thought this was a really apt name for the community because it refers to three things. One is this specific element, the space within our cathedral, where you can literally stand in the middle of the cathedral. It also refers to, I think, New York and the cathedral as a crossroads, an intellectual and spiritual crossroads. In New York, a recent statistic from 2018 showed that there were about 4.4 million people living in New York who were foreign born. And that is a tremendous, exciting mix of people, cultural traditions, faith traditions. We are an ecumenical city in a real sense. And if you think about 4.4 million, that's actually about the size of Kentucky. And so just within the state of New York, we have another state of people who are, it's just a crossroads and a melting pot. But Community at the Crossing also refers to the process that all of the participants in the program are undergoing. They're each in a process of discernment, thinking about their life and how they can, how they want to show up and how they want to be, as Sister Hannah says, interrupted by God and bring a new perspective into their professional life. And so with that introduction about what the community of the crossing means for us, I'd like to turn it over to Pat Malloy to give us some context for why this is a program that we feel is needed very much in our country.
Thank you, Monica, and thanks to all of you for being here. Before I do that, I just want to give you just the tiniest little bit of history. This program first occurred to me as a possibility when I came to the cathedral in 2016. And the idea then I took to our dean, who was excited about the idea, and then I took it to our trustees, and our trustees sort of sent me off to do my best to see whether this could happen. And so off I went to London, where I visited the program that Monica mentioned, the community of St. Anselm, and where I met the Archbishop of Canterbury, who heartily endorsed our efforts here. And through him, then, I came to know Cheminov in France and Cheminov in Rome. And then back here in the United States, I entered into a lot of conversations with a lot of people one-on-one. We had strategic meetings, focus group meetings to figure out what to do next. We started actually doing donor solicitations, and then we were just about ready to launch and COVID hit. And so what you're really experiencing now is really 2 years, about 2 years or more behind schedule, but now we are ready to start. So we are really 5 years now after I first pitched this to the trustees. So this is really, feels to us on our side, like this is a lot of work finally coming to fruition. So when we have after our presentation, the panelists will have a conversations, Q&A, depending on the questions you send to us. They will flesh out, all of that will flesh out a lot of the specifics of what we're going to be doing here at the cathedral. But first, I want to talk to you about sort of two big ideas, two sort of overarching reasons why we think this is an important time, the right time to do what we're doing here at the cathedral. I wonder, Monica, if you could advance the slide one. This is a really interesting slide. This is survey data on religiosity in the United States, and it asks the respondents what the religious tradition was. And this shows you how many people said they had no religious tradition. What's interesting about this slide is that if you see in 1972, that was 6% of the population. In 2017, now notice the gap between 1972 and 2017, that number just about doubled to about 15%. But from 2017 to 2019, it went from 15% to 24%. So what we see is there is this incredible upswing in the number of Americans who do not identify with any particular religious tradition. The way they're sometimes called is nuns, people who have no religious tradition. But another way to think of these people is to think of them as seekers. These are not people, by and large, who have no interest in the spiritual life, no interest in greater things, no interest in ethics or values-based living. It's quite the opposite. They're people who are very much seeking a way to make sense of their lives, but do not identify with any particular religious tradition. And so what we find ourselves with right now, those of us who are Christians, is we find ourselves surrounded by about a quarter of the population, and it's even much higher among younger people, who do not have any religious or spiritual or faith tradition, but many of them are searching for one. And Monica mentioned about the situation here in New York City. In New York City, frankly, almost no one goes to church anymore. The decrease in the number of people who identify as Christians in New York is very small. And so we here at the cathedral find ourselves surrounded, both in the city and in the larger culture, with a great many people who are seekers, but people who have no particular religious tradition. So that's one of the reasons why we think creating this intentional community that you'll learn much more about, the community at the crossing, comes at a very important time in the history of the city and of the world, when we find ourselves surrounded by people who are looking for something. And we're hoping to provide them a way perhaps to explore one possible answer to their search. The other reason this is a particularly important time, and you don't need a slide for me to, I don't need to show you a slide for you to know this, is that there is an unbelievable dissolution of Christianity across the United States and across denominations, and even more so within denominations. There was a time when we all knew about the Christian unity movement and the great striving toward the unity of Christians across denominational lines. But when that was at its height, it actually seemed like unity was possible. I remember as a young person soon after the Second Vatican Council, when the notion that there could be real ecumenical growth it seemed achievable. And now it seems less and less likely, not just within what we think of as sort of the mainline traditions, but if you just think of Christianity in the United States, frankly, for me, and I can only speak for myself, when I see some of the people on television who are speaking for Christianity, I'm not even sure how we're members of the same religion. So there's an unbelievable breakdown now in Christian unity, perhaps much stronger than there ever has been before, even perhaps at the time of the Reformation, when it seemed like the divisions were the strongest. We were having a meeting with our PR firm a few months ago, and someone raised the question, well, shouldn't this really be an interreligious program? Shouldn't we really have people talking across religious traditions, not within the Christian tradition? And our PR firm, who are quite secular, I assure you, said basically, interreligious dialogue is sort of being done, and it sort of is done. It's not nearly as necessary and as poignant right now as trying to create a situation in which Christians can talk to one another, not just talk to people outside of their own boundaries. And so we have ourselves now, those are the really two reasons that bring us together, is that we find ourselves surrounded by people, especially young people, who are searching for the deeper, the more real in their lives, the more holy, we might say. And also because we find ourselves in a situation where Christians within themselves, both inside their denominations and among denominations, find it increasingly difficult to find common ground, even in terms of common action, not just in terms of theology, but even in terms of just doing anything together or recognizing one another as members of the same religion. And so we are having this program. And just to give you a general sense of what we hope to do here, beginning not this September, but beginning next September, and you can go on to Archbishop Welby, Monica, beginning next September, we will gather here at the Cathedral about a dozen young people who will commit to spending a year together living in intense community in what Archbishop Welby here, when he established the program at Lambeth Palace, the community of St. Anselm, what he calls spending a year in God's time. To come together, these seekers, to come together, to seek together under the mentorship of much wiser people than I am, and to work together, to live together, to model the fact that Christian unity is in fact possible, despite all the differences that plague us, to both experience it, to be transformed themselves by it, but also to model for the greater world that Christian unity is not simply an illusion, that it is quite possible. I told you before that I went to London as part of my prep for this whole thing, where I met the Archbishop. And the Archbishop was unbelievably gracious to me, unbelievably gracious. And one of the first things he said to me after he told me that we really had to do this and he would help us any way possible, and he has, is that we needed to welcome in as a sort of faculty for the program, or as our superiors, advisors, mentors, a group of religious called Shemana, people who live this vocation and who make a lifelong vow to live this vocation of Christian unity. I had never heard of Shemana. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Shemana. We have two members of Shemana right here in front of us, and they can tell you a bit about their community. Before I left Lambeth Palace, when the number of days I was there, Shemana contacted me and said, we are so excited. The Archbishop has told me about you. We are so excited about partnering to create some wonderful thing like this in New York City. And that's how we met Shemana. One last thing, let me do a quick little timeline for you. So our Shemana will establish a community on this property On September 8th will be the launch, and you are all welcome to come to it. It's going to be an exciting event in the evening. The Archbishop himself is sending a video greeting. We're hoping for one from somebody important in Rome. We're working on that. So that will be September 8th. And the original Sheminef community will be 4 people. There will be Sister Hannah, we see here in front of us, who's a member of the Church of England, a Roman Catholic priest, a Roman Catholic sister, and a postulant to their community who is sort of a non-denominational Christian with a background in the Church of the Nazarene. So as you can see, we really are modeling from the very beginning the unity across difference that we want to model for the rest of the church and the rest of the world. So that is a way to kick it off and give you some context. And now let's move ahead.
Hello to everyone. It's a joy to be here. So my name is Sister Hannah, and I can share a bit more about the community at the Crossing. So the community at the Crossing is made up of young people from across the USA and across Christian denominations who choose to take a year out of their normal pathway in order to study, to dive into community life, to experience a radical rhythm of prayer, to serve the poor in the city of New York, and to be interrupted by God. Why study? Because we're called to love with your mind and your heart and your soul, because we're called to a thinking faith, because we're urged by the Apostle Paul to be ready to have an answer for the hope that we have. Prayer, because it's our breath and it's our lifeblood. It's the source of all intelligent action. It's what Jesus interrupted everything else to do. Service to the poor, because of the commandment to serve the smallest and the poorest and the weakest. And because of our common humanity, because Jesus himself washed our feet. And community life, because Jesus was in a community. Pentecost was all about community. Because you can't be a Christian alone, and because you need people who are different than yourself. Different Christian denominations, because of Jesus's prayer for unity in John 17, because peace will come to the world through our unity, and because division can only destroy. This community is one community with 2 ways of belonging. So the first is residential, which is 12 full-time members who will be living at the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. And then those who are working life, that's the terminology we're using at the moment. So 20 or 30 plus members with these rhythms integrated into their current professional activity or study, living in their current place of accommodation in the city of New York. That's it in a nutshell. The selection process, how do we select these people? So we have a website and social media that's coming soon. It's completely essential. And then in the fall and winter of 2022, we'll be hosting different orientation days. So on Zoom from different places across the USA and at the cathedral itself. Applications are going to open in January 2023. We'll have the final admission stage April, announcement of the first cohort in May, and then it's the commitment service. It's the launch of the first cohort of Community at the Crossing in September 2023. This is how we're going to select them. Who are we looking for? So the Community at the Crossing is for any Christian between 20 to 30 years old, from any Christian denomination, from anywhere in the USA. We want to give the opportunity for future leaders to experience a foundational formation, regardless of socio-economical background. My question is, who comes to mind for you when we talk about somebody who loves Jesus, who has a heart to listen, who has a hunger for deep and challenging formation, who has an openness to being with those who are different, who may be being called to be interrupted and form part of the community at the Crossing? So what does the program look like day to day? How does this achieve what we're aiming for? So a typical day, as I said, there's these 2 different types of membership or belonging to the community. So obviously the day-to-day will look a bit different, but they will have regular times to meet together, linked in with the site and the activity of the Cathedral of St. John the Divine. Residential membership, that's full-time, that's based on site at the community, that are based on site at the cathedral. In a typical week, there'll be 2 days of study with speakers from across the states and the world, from different church traditions, speaking about a range of different themes, from theology to reconciliation and bridge building, to psychology and spirituality, to environment, to Christian witness in the business world. There'll be 2 days of service to the poor, which is going out in groups of 2 to 3 to different charities across the city of New York, working with different groups, from the homeless to centers for addiction, to hospital chaplaincy, disability groups. 1 day of the week focused particularly on community life. It's the medium by which everything passes, from our shared living spaces, from meals together, but there will also be dedicated times for house tasks, for evenings and outings together, for space for reconciliation and sharing. And then the prayer throughout the week, it's a bit like a club sandwich, I like to talk about it, the bread, and the bread. It's peppered throughout the whole day, from daily personal prayer to 1 weekly half day of silence and prayer, to communal prayer, we'll see, based on site at the cathedral. And then this aspect of unity, it's the overflow and linked in with community life. And that's will come through our different church heritage and how it informs our worship together, from taking advantage of Sundays to visit one another's churches, from different moments of events or think tanking about unity, from even just the crossover of residential and working life members. And then on top of all of this, throughout the year, there'll be particular events from different theme retreats, maybe more based on silence or on community life, ecumenical events, maybe an experiment in a monastery, an internship in a business based in New York City. That's the residential members. The working life members will integrate these different rhythms into their current full-time work or study, obviously with timing that is adapted. But there'll be time set aside for community gatherings in a rhythm, for example, such as 1 evening a week, 1 day a month, 1 weekend a trimester. These are the times where the 2 different types of members will be together, uniting these 2 modalities. Obviously, not everyone can be a residential member or is called to be so, but this modality of working life belonging means that the formation is open to the diversity of those who are already living and working in New York City, and where the call is to transformation and deepening in the place they already are in normal daily life. The mission statement we've adopted for the community at the Crossing is: through the experience of a deeply shared community life, we will forge faith-filled leaders with the courage and moral core to transform the world by the way they practice their vocations. So I'm going to draw as well on the example of the community of St. Anselm. In the past 6 or 7 years, there's been around 160 participants, with about 2 out of 3 members go on to secular roles such as doctors, management consultants, engineers, reconciliation advisors, film producers, illustrators, the lot. And there's been some statistical research that's been gathered over the past few years. And the most recent things that came out, I wanted to share 2 little statistics about that show a little bit of the impact of this year on the lives of these people. For example, from 70% of members who now practice silent prayer several times a week, compared to only 8% at the beginning of the program. And then comparing only 17% of members who would have asked God to help solve conflict before participation in the program, compared to 88% afterwards. There's been members who have testified as colleagues naming them as the moral compass of their workplace as a result of them following the program. Members who have testified to a deepening of their vocation thanks to their shared experiences. Members who have testified to discovering that it is possible to disagree and still love and respect one another. So members of the community at the Crossing will be changed and forged as leaders through the rhythms that we have chosen. And all of these rhythms are important. Study will grow an intelligent faith, which is capable of speaking to the nuances and signs of our times, to widen our horizons, to understand where we come from. Service will not only give practical skills, but give new hearts capable of greater compassion, which comes from seeing in each individual a person of worth, capable of choosing my neighbour or my enemy, capable of structuring priorities based on the smallest first. Prayer roots us in who we are, anchored in our identity as beloved children of God. We are free to go anywhere, do anything, speak in any way. It will give a greater sensitivity and also a greater discernment to know how to choose in the way of Jesus, and in that, open the way for others. And for me, what is unique about the community at the Crossing is the community life and the unity aspect. It's the means by which all passes this deeply shared community life. And this is something that we have experienced and lived out in the Shomaneth community for the past 50 years. Because in community life, we do not choose one another, but we choose Jesus first, and so receive one another as one who is also and equally chosen and loved and worthy. I discover that this other may be the means by which God operates in my life, that conflict does not have to mean division, that it is possible to disagree well. In community life, we experience and we build a place of trust where I can dare to be myself, dare to be disarmed, dare to truly encounter the other who is so different to me, and in doing so discover that there is far more that unites us than that which divides us. And in choosing community life with people from other denominations, even from the same denomination, but in a radically different expression therein, I'm choosing to prioritize the person of Jesus we worship, rather than the habits or familiarity of my church family, and in that come to true reconciliation, not a blurring of differences, but a resolution to open myself to the work of conversion that Jesus can do in my heart. And this all takes place in the heart of a community, through individuals choosing one another because of Jesus. The practical, the hands-on, the messy, the reconciliation and verification and incarnation of what we learn with our brains and pray with our souls and serve with our hands. And this is what overflows to impact the world around us, to change our families and our churches and our countries, and to bring true hope. This is the community at the Crossing starting in fall 2023.
Thank you, Sister Hannah. That was really eloquent and very thorough in terms of walking us through the timeline and what a participant would experience. So thank you very much. And you were a participant in the program, so that comes from your heart. We're now going to hear from someone who else has been a participant, is an alumnus of the community of St. Anselm, and he's going to actually share some of his perspectives and how this experience changed his life as well. So before he speaks with us, though, we're going to show a brief video. So Joe, if you would tee up the video for us.
like to be like that all the time. I was reflecting on what's my purpose in life.
I think we didn't get sound there. Am I right?
Correct.
I'm going to try it again. Let's see if this works.
My name is Ludovic Claude.
Do you have sound now?
We do.
Yes. I'm currently working in private equity, focusing on impact investing. Impact investing is trying to achieve a multiple goal. So you are achieving the goal of financial return, as well as make an impact for local communities, giving access to finance to people who doesn't have access to finance. St. Anselm community is a monastic-like community Archbishop Justin Welby has set up last year to help young professional, Christian professional, to revisit the monastic life in order to address the culture in banking. After work, we arrive at Lambeth Palace. We'll have supper together, catch up on the day. We usually have some professors or someone who has certain expertise in theology come and talk to us. And then after that, we usually go in the crypt. Sometimes the Archbishop will come down and lead the service. The atmosphere in the crypt is very spiritual. It's good to be able to pray with other people, singing, letting yourself go. I always feel lifted, and I feel like I would like to be like that all the time. I was reflecting on what's my purpose in life and what am I called to do. Although we feel like as a Christian, we are all called to follow Christ, but doesn't mean that everyone is called to be a priest. Is it really realistic to do that? Your call could be actually at the heart of the bank and trying to change things from within.
Hi everyone, thank you very much for welcoming me here. I'm really super excited to be hearing about all these inspirations and the work of God it makes. My name is Pierre Ludovic Claude. I'm called Ludovic, Ludo, that's short. So I was part of a community of St. Anselm for inception years.
Excuse me, Ludo, we can't hear you. Can you speak up a little bit more?
Yes, can you hear me now? Is it better?
Better.
Oh, I don't know what happened. Sorry about it. So I was saying that my name is Ludo Claude. I was part of a community of St. Anselm on the first year, 2015, and then the second year, year 2, 2016. And also, I was, can you hear me? I can see some text messages. I was part of an integrated members of community, so people who are non-resident, as you can see in the video. So I was really, it came at the point of my life where I needed transition. So I was transitioning I was questioning things, what should I do next? I was working banking, and I was wondering, is it really true to my core value? I like finance, but at the same time, something was missing. So I was always going regularly to church, Anglican church. I was 16 and having got a Catholic background. So my priest told me whether I would be interested in participating in this launch. Initially, I thought it was kind of part of the strategy for me to become a priest. So I was okay, I need to kind of think this through. And I did some research and then talked to the people who are organizing it, and it felt right. So I was kind of like, I started writing applications from the office, and then sent it across, and I was selected to start. And that's where the journey started. So then after that, it was very transformational. So I get to know new people, new members from different backgrounds in terms of religion, in terms of professions, in terms of geographies. So it was really kind of like living the gospel, uniting everyone together and share our experiences. So that was really, really transformative. So what was also interesting is to actually learn a new way to pray. as I was saying in the video, you sometimes just abandon yourself in prayers. So you feel God, presence of God, the Spirit. And that was something I was not accustomed before. So that was, even the community of St. was something new to me, and the exercise, the spiritual exercise, the way of prayer, the religious prayers as well, that was an introduction, a welcome one. That enabled me to kind of question my life as well. And so, okay, well, there's maybe something different that I don't know about the world, and the fact that you can actually encounter one another in a special place like Lambeth Palace is a testament that there's more to do. Follow after this and kind of welcome other people to do the same thing. So it become like an ambassador of the community of St. Anselm and the ambassador of Jesus Christ through this experience. One of the other mission that we had is basically to discern our calling. So that was actually the key, the thematic theme during our retreat, special retreat. My discernment journey wasn't it's kind of very challenging because you kind of feel the presence of God, but at the same time you want kind of God to help you, show you the way, what you are called.
Ludo, I'm so sorry. Could you please speak up a little more? We're having a hard time hearing you again.
Yeah, sure. Let me take my speaker out.
Thank you.
Is it better this way without the speaker? Because I take my earphone.
I think just get closer to the speaker.
No? Oh. Sorry. Is it better? Can you hear me better now?
That's much better. Yes. Thank you.
I don't know. You know what? Sorry about it. So I was saying that the discernment was a very pivotal point in the journey. So being in silence, calling God, helping God to discern where we are meant to be. And through the journey, my discernment was actually basically to serve in Africa, to help people with what I have experience in Africa, because that's where I'm originally from. So I was born in Cameroon. I grew up there before coming to France and then UK. So it's almost like a point of return, going back to give back in a way from the source. And that was kind of makes sense to me. And one of the questions was, okay, how can I do that? I know kind of a geography. How can I utilize my background, which was in banking, usually seems as something not very nice, because you feel like bankers are people who are actually sinners, right? In a way. So so I was kind of like, so how can you turn that around? How can you make the image of people in banking kind of bright, a positive image, especially at the time when we went through financial crisis, those scandals going on. So how can I take this opportunity to change myself and to show that there's different part of the story of banking. So that's why the impact investing was really good, because it kind of helped put things into perspective. So bank finance is a tool. You can use it to serve and to serve God as well. So how can you leverage that, and how can you make sure that you are in a space in the industry that could actually have the same vision and help you serve God as well, and change people within the industry as well in order to serve. And I'm really happy to see that a lot of talk about sustainability, a lot of impact. How can you operate in other geography and make things kind of like benefit the locals as well? So money is just a means to talk. That seems simple, but it's not always how we live their life. So that's kind of giving this direction, the perspective. And I think it wasn't enough. I really needed to go deep down. I wanted to kind of understand myself as well. Having encountered God was great. It's helped me to know myself deeper, to understand myself, and to understand my father as well. Because my dad, for example, is someone that I didn't get to know. It helped me to kind of realize the fact that I haven't forgiven him. So I haven't forgotten him, and I also given the opportunity to forgive in order to heal. So it's good to serve, but if you are not forgiving, if you're not kind of heal, it'll be more difficult. So it helps to kind of like be vulnerable, to admit to be vulnerable, and then be compassionate. and I was able to go further in the journey. And after this Committee of St. Anselm, I decided to do an MBA. I didn't know where to do it, but the journey helped me to focus on the experience in Oxford. Oxford, why Oxford? Not just because it's a fancy name, fancy university. It was actually thought through. I only applied to 3 schools, and including Oxford and LBS and the school in Spain. But Oxford was particular because it focused on Africa. It focused on finance, but impact investing as well. So that was kind of over 3 elements that I needed in order to carry on my journey. It happens that if over signs that I could see pulled me toward that direction, and I don't know it ever since. Post that experience, which was amazing to me, I went to Africa. I went to do an experience with consulting with the Lord in Gabon. Gabon is not quite Cameroon, but it's just a country in Gabon. So I was advising the government of Gabon on infrastructure projects, including the president of Gabon. These was big project, kind of big investment. You can see the reality of the country. But again, I was kind of saying to myself, this is kind of good on the CV, but is it really what I'm doing? Is it really what I'm calling to do? It sounds very good, very big, but I feel like I was losing myself. It wasn't like the right path. So I was kind of, okay, I get that journey, that discernment. God's calling me to go to Africa. He sent me to Africa from my perspective. How come I don't feel at the right place, doing the right thing? So it's something that I'm still questioning. I'm still kind of talking to God. I'm still in dialogue in terms of like the next step after that. But I think the experience was actually for me to open my eyes to the reality of Africa. Africa is not a fancy word, or it's just like a dream that I'm going there to save Africa. I don't think that maybe would have been the wrong perspective to say that people are waiting for me to come and save Africa. I think that's why I wanted to kind of say, in terms of like what I've seen there, a lot of corruptions, and indirectly, I was kind of being part of that, because even if I wasn't initiating it, I was involved in projects that kind of like open to corruptions. And and that's why I was like, maybe there's something else that I need to do. So what I did, I came back. I came back to London.
Ludo, everything you're sharing is so inspiring, and we really appreciate having the insight into how this experience propelled you forward in a wonderful journey. I'm looking at the time and trying to be sensitive because we do have some questions coming in. So would it be okay for us to move on to offer some questions to the panelists? Thank you. But thank you. I think it really illustrates the impacts that this program can have on people's lives and sort of the wonderful journey that it's sent you on. So let me share a question that came in, and please, if anyone has questions about the program, about how to become more connected with the program or nominate people or send candidates to the program, please just type those in the chat. But this question came through. There is a program in New York. So how would you assess the sort of the impact or the experience that someone might have in sort of a small Bible study, that like a year-long Bible study that might have intermittent retreats, versus this residential program that seems like it's such a tremendous commitment? So can you talk about the difference of experience and the impact on someone's life that it might have? And that's for any of the panelists who want to jump in.
I'm not a New Yorker, so I don't know if I'm the best person to answer this question, because I don't know the Gotham program, the Gotham Fellowship. I just had a quick look on the internet to check what it's about. Obviously, I'm sure there's already 1,000 wonderful programs in the city of New York that look a lot like what we intend to start. And it's not very French to try to prove that you're the best. So I'm not going to try to do it. What I can say is what I really see, 3 things. first of all, the two major differences or peculiarities of the program, the Community at the Crossing. First is that it's ecumenical, and it's ecumenical in a positive way that tries to honor the unicity of each of differences. And second, it's this good difference between residential and people who have their working life. And we have noticed in the survey that Hannah mentioned a few minutes ago, it's very clear in the survey that the impact of the residential program is like 200% more effective than the non-residential program. And this very impactful program on people's life is very encouraging for the non-residential members. So this makes a very dynamic community between all of us. Okay, I apologize for my very poor English. I hope that I make myself understand.
You have great English. You have great English, Joe Sebastian.
Here's another question that's come in. How can we be involved? How can the parishes be involved in this wonderful program? And actually, is there a role for older people to play in this program? You're on mute, Sister Hannah.
What I said was Pat.
What do you? Am I the older person that you're wondering about? Was that what you meant?
Yeah, that was absolutely.
I am proof that there is a role for older persons. How, the thing about the parishes is, first of all, the parishes, I don't know for sure, but you're probably spread all across the United States. Can I say first a word about the United States? Ludo mentioned that he is from Cameroon, and the community at St. Anselm has participants from all over the world. And when we first conceived of this program, we could have imagined the same thing. But right now, getting visas is not an easy matter. And so it's simply not practical for us to even begin to think of bringing people in from across the United States, except perhaps people who are already in the country on educational visas, and then they get a year. There's always a year tacked on to the end of that, and they can stay for this. So that's just to fill that gap in. All of you, though, from the parishes are scattered around the United States, and you will be in a wonderful position to do two things. First, to be ambassadors, to carry the news of this program across the church and the churches, but also to feed people into the pipeline who might be really good candidates for this program. Both people who could benefit from it and people who could be gifts to it. And those will always be the same people. The people who need it and the people who can bring things to it will be the same people. So I think to be ambassadors for us, and also to be, in a sense, recruiters for us in your own living situations, in your own faith communities. Those are the couple things I can think of.
Okay, wonderful. I think there's a clarification on part of the question, or to nuance the question a bit. So you shared how parishes can help the program, but how within the New York Diocese, how would you see the community, members of the community interacting, if at all, with the parishes in the diocese?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think Sister Hannah mentioned, I think it was Sister Hannah, that on Sundays, the members of the community go out to their own congregations, for example. So since the community is absolutely ecumenical, I mean, you look at Chamonix here, we have 2 Anglicans and a Roman Catholic, right? So Chamonix, and our screen shows us that Chamonix and the community are ecumenical. On Sundays, people are encouraged to go to the communities of their own tradition. So the Anglicans who were part of our community would certainly go out to the Episcopal parishes in the diocese and to be 11 that way. So I can think of that is one way. I also think, and I think this is just as important, I think that when we get these young people living here under the mentorship of our Chamonix sisters and brothers, this place will become a real center for things like retreats and workshops and places where people can come and spend time with these young people in their prayer, to in a sense share their prayer, to share the prayer of these young people. And now in that way, that they don't necessarily have to go out to the parishes to have an impact, but it's another reason for the members of our diocese to come here, because this, after all, is the diocesan church. That's what the cathedral is. So I think it will also help to create stronger bonds potentially between the cathedral and the congregations that call this cathedral their church.
Great. So here's the three-part question. First, and this is for you, Sister Hannah, I think, what is the nomination and application process? What does that look like?
We are still nomination application process is we want to open it up as wide as possible. Like when I said before, it's open to, we've delimited an age bracket, but otherwise it's anywhere in the US because of visa questions and from any church at all. So but it will be in two different stages, I think, because 12 is not very many people. So it will be online. There'll be links that we'll be sending out for people to be able to like sign up to have information about kind of dates that are coming up, to maybe have more information, something about maybe the importance of attending an orientation day as well, because it's quite something to sign up for a year program, quite something to sign up for a year program with 11 people that you've never met in your life, maybe in a city you've never been to in your life, etc. So it's really a process to help the person who's applying have the most information to be able to really help themselves discern or confirm a calling that, like, actually, is this desire, is this the best place for me to go? And also for us as well to be able to feel that out. 12 people, it's quite small. So to try and have the biggest diversity present, but to try and pray it out, to discern it out, to see how it is that God's calling. I know for the community of St. Anselm, for example, sometimes there's been a bit of fluidity for sometimes people applying for the residential program, and actually through discussion, realizing that the best format for them is the working life format. And actually that ties in, you know, God opens doors, they're able to come and live and work and start a job somewhere else in New York City. Well,
that's a great segue, because part two of that question is, can you speak more about the working program and what does that look like?
Well, I mean, Ludo's probably is the expert really, because he's lived something out the most like that. I think the stage that we're at right now, it's less clear than the residential, because of what we said to talk about 20 to 30 plus people, but depending on the size of the group and everything, and also the things like annual leave, holiday, kind of what does that look like in the city of New York as well, to be able to have your free time, you know, is it a 3-hour commute just to get to the cathedral, depending on where you're living? But on the whole, it's continuing your normal life of like work and study, but through these punctual times of meeting together. So we talked about an evening a week, a day a month, and a kind of long weekend or a week per trimester, to have those times of really bringing the whole community together, to have the input about these different rhythms, about prayer and about study. And then with each person, Ludo talked about having a spiritual guide, so having a brother or a sister or someone like a big brother or sister in the faith to walk along with you, to help you discern like what does that look like integrated into your life, because it's not about adding on 1,000 hours that nobody has, but how can, as St. Ignatius talked about, how can our prayer become our life and our life become what we pray? How are those integrated?
Sister, can I add something too?
Sure.
You will remember that when there was that piece up from the Financial Times with Archbishop Welby's picture. It's interesting that the first major publication to talk about this program was the Financial Times of London. Because when Archbishop Welby launched this, he did not, now here's Sister Hannah went in as this, you know, innocent Anglican laywoman, and lo and behold, she decided to join Shem Enough. So sometimes people do go through the program and end up choosing the religious life or the priesthood as their path. But that was not the intention of the program. It was quite the opposite of that. It was that people would come to the program from the secular professions and then go back and be sort of a cultural leaven. And one of our hopes is not, in addition to bringing people like that here, both as full-time residents and then as people who are still in their jobs, is perhaps to find placements for the residents, the 12 full-time residents, to find them periodic placements out in places of business. So we've talked about, just as we could send people out into the field to do what we think of generally as charity work or work with people who are in need, that we could also send them into places of business so they could actually practice how it is with a mentor, how it really is that you become a sort of an ethical leaven in an otherwise seemingly non-religious, non-spiritual context. So I don't know if that,
So another question is, will the religious practice of the community have its foundation in Anglican or Episcopal piety, or will it merge worship traditions?
We're based in the Episcopal Cathedral of St. John the Divine, so it's certain that there's something rooted in that tradition already. If we're attending church on a Sunday, if we're going to pray offices, for example, the morning office, I think for us it's, again, with a model of ecumenism or unity of Christians that we have adopted in the community of Chemin Neuf. It's not a model where everything gets kind of blurred in together, but it's actually the importance of really oh, and now my English has failed me, of like choosing that right now we're going to pray, you know, we're in the Orthodox Church, we're going to pray an Orthodox rite, or now we're at Anglican Church, we're going to pray an Anglican rite. So I think there'll be moments where it's really, you know, this is the Anglican or the Episcopal morning prayer, but then maybe there'll be other moments of where we'll ask a Methodist sister and she'll lead us in a time of prayer. Or there's lots of ways that we can pray that are actually everyone has in common as well. Silence is a great thing that everyone can do as a Christian.
Well, not everyone.
Okay.
But
Humanly possible. Yeah.
Do you know one of the most touching things for me when I was at Lambeth Palace spending time with the community of St. Anselm was that they celebrated the Eucharist every day at noon, and before lunch. And as you know, again, here you see members of various Christian traditions. And as you know, Roman Catholics do not receive Holy Communion in churches that are not Roman Catholic. And so, you know, the Archbishop of Canterbury is presiding at the Eucharist, and the entire community stands around. And it was sort of both a lovely and a sad thing that the Roman Catholics, as a matter of course, did not receive Holy Communion, but were so utterly respectful. And then if a member of the Roman Catholic Church presided, then out of respect to that person, the non-Roman Catholics didn't receive Holy Communion. It was a rather unexpected, beautiful witness to mutual respect. It was really gorgeous, frankly.
And because this is New York, how can we scale up to reach even more people? The people who, to even reach 25% of the people who are seeking. How can this program be scaled?
With a lot of prayer. That's the that's the first answer. I'm not sure. I think I'm a firm believer in small beginnings. See how things go, but I think I believe this is completely possible. The Christian church started with 11 fairly terrified disciples in an upper room, and then the Holy Spirit comes and shakes things up as he does. And this is, you know, we're here today because of the work of the Holy Spirit and because of these 11 people. So it's like strategically, I don't know personally. I believe it's possible, and if God's behind it, it will happen. It will happen through partnership and through prayer and through collaboration. I'm sure of it, and I think it will happen as well through the diversity that we'll be able to encounter through this project that's taking off.
This is the seed, right? This is the seed.
This is the seed, yeah. But mustard seeds, we know something about them.
So could you envision, so this is another question, could you envision the local parishes in New York providing some of the programming, the teaching, the service opportunities?
Sure.
Okay, I think that's yes. And so then we would have to create, so the answer is yes. So we will have to create a mechanism to invite the local parishes to participate in some of the more formalized parts of the program. I think that's something we'll look forward to.
Maybe something I can share. The first members of our community are going to arrive on the 1st of September in a few weeks in New York. And the very first thing we have to do is to meet the city of New York and to meet the people. We've already done that first with the team that we're working with Monica, Pat, and so many other wonderful people. And then the rest of the staff of the cathedral, that was in March. And now we have to expand, and we have also met the people in the neighborhood, the Columbia University, the Morningside Heights Fellowship, etc. And now we need to expand the network of relationships we have in the US, in the city of New York, and in the rest of the US. So for this, we're very thankful for this Zoom meeting we're having tonight. Thank you very much.
And then a last challenging question before we wrap up. This program targets 20 to 30-year-olds, which covers a particular stage of life. However, because divisiveness knows no age boundaries and diversity is important in becoming a community of God, why do we limit the age of people who can participate in the program?
I could answer this maybe. My wish is that any Christian of any age can attend such a program, and we have such a program in Spain. So you are very welcome to come to Spain and attend the similar program that we have in Spain, in Zaragoza. Every year we have around 50 families coming for this kind of program. With a lot, so you have a lot of kids. There's 200 people living in a cartura, in a cartuja in Zaragoza. Now we need to start small, and we chose to start with the youth, because they're the one who will shape the church in the next 20 years. Well, all of Christians will, but young people in particular. So yeah, it was a choice.
So thank you all so much for joining us today. We're past our time a little bit, and we look forward to following up. We'll be very happy to send out the link to the website. Applications will open in January, and that's how potential participants can apply to become a member. And we look forward to updating you as we move forward. We're not going to wait a whole year to reach out. In fact, you're all invited to our September 8th launch, and we will forward an invitation to you. Come meet Sister Hannah and Jean-Sebastien in person.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Goodbye.